what each factory does and what it does better. You guys know what's going on in a lot of those places, but there's been some questions and some things have moved from place to place. I'm Brian. Welcome to my Tesla weekend. And I'm sure you guys know you're watching the full version on the second channel that goes out on Friday nights. And yeah, all that good stuff. Or you're watching the condensed. It's whichever one you see on the screen. I've been out of town for a little bit, so I wanted to thank newest patrons David and Eric, and upgrading patrons Christopher and Larry. Awesome, you guys. Thank you so much for all that. Oh, I can't do it without you. So what are we talking about? So once they moved out of the, where was it? The Menlo Park facility, the little shop, and into a real factory, where'd they go? Well, the Nummi plant was iconic. It was not only the largest factory in North America, but it was, the most productive. It was a new step forward in how things were made. It was a joint venture between General Motors and Toyota. And it ended because there were some corporate cultural conflicts, I guess you could say. And it made it, there was a little bit of friction. Things didn't always work right. It was described as a zombie marriage by some. At the end, with General Motors in crisis, in bankruptcy, Toyota was making, some Toyota Tacomas, some Corollas, some Pontiac Vibes, and it was done. It was time. So Toyota made a big investment in Tesla. They wanted to electrify. They knew that that was the future, so they started building RAV4s through Tesla. Tesla powertrain RAV4s. So they sold them the plant. They sold it to them for the low price of $42 million in stock. It wasn't even cash. Toyota actually, as I recall, gave them cash over and above the $42 million as part of an investment. Something like $8 million. It was a $50 million stake. And so they got this factory. And it's a big productive beast. It was a warehouse. It was an indoor maze. It was far bigger than analysts said that they would ever need. Because they're just going to make the Model S and eventually the Model X there. I mean, they're also going to make, seats and motors and battery components. But really, it's still too big. Even though as a Nummi plant, it was just assembly, for Tesla, it was going to be whole manufacturing, or at least a lot more manufacturing. So they got this place. Now this picture is very out of date from a user named Building Tesla. All this has been developed into housing at the top here. There's some new sprung structures here that they're using for production, but it's kind of a mess. Yeah, kind of a mess. So what do they got there? We'll get to that in a minute. So they went ahead and advanced it, making Models 3 and eventually Models Y. So what's made here today, they might still be making some motors, but I don't think so. They're just making 3, Y, S, and X, and that's it. They may have some prototyping going on in here, but it may be done in Hawthorne, down by SpaceX, where they've done prototyping in the past. That's my understanding. So that's the first factory, man. And then, of course, we heard the announcement. They're going to build this giant battery factory. And I saw that and I thought, that's crazy, man. Just buy the batteries. But they saw something that I didn't, which was that they needed a lot of batteries. Like a lot. An amount that they described as more than were currently available in the entire world to get to 20 gigawatt hours so they can make 500,000 cars. That's a lot of batteries, and it was going to be huge. So I guess I should have said what they're doing here. I said what they're doing. I didn't say what they're doing better. What they're doing is building cars better than Nummi ever did. The analyst said, oh, you'll never get to 460,000 units out of that factory. And they have. They've exceeded it. So they're doing something better. They introduced, you can't see it in this map because it's not here yet, but they introduced all kinds of new storage methods, automated vertical warehouses. It's pretty neat. But what are they doing in Nevada that's different? Well, one thing they're doing, again, it was supposed to be ginormous, but it ended up being, a little bit smaller. So what they're doing differently is they're still getting the same output. They're getting more output than they expected to get from this entire place. They changed the processes and procedures. The equipment is more advanced than existed at the time. They're getting more output from a vastly smaller factory. This was a bit contentious because they got so much money in grants. $1.3 billion was the cost of the factory, and it's expected to cost about that much again in tax breaks. But what happened is they realized we can build the same amount in a much smaller factory by going from linear production to vertical production. And if you look at old CATL and LG and Panasonic battery factories, they were linear until this came along. And now they are also vertical. They're stacked. They're using the cubic space. So what they did differently is make stuff and make it better and in a smaller area. So what are they doing here? Well, when they started, it was just batteries and packs. At one point, they were doing the motors here. I think they still are. Might have someone in the chat who can inform me on that. But they also, at a time, were doing power walls, and they still are, though not in this building. And what they're also doing here is semis. And I've been saying that for a while, but now it's official. We know because the semi-unveiling is being held, not here, but just off the map down the road at the next building, just out of sight, just beyond the security checkpoint. So that's what they're doing differently there. So then we've got New York. Yeah, where the Buffalo Wild Things are. I know. I try and put some jokes in and keep it lively. So this was even more contentious. Elon and Tesla did not own this. Elon was on the board of directors when it was a Solar City plant. They were going to be making, solar panels, solar products. Well, they had already been in contract to make power walls. They've got the expertise. Let's just hire Solar City to make our chargers and our power walls. Once they did the merger, they traded a bunch of engineers to make it work even better. So what do they do here? Well, they make the chargers, the superchargers, and they make the solar roof. And what they do differently is on the roof, as you know, it's solar tiles. It's not solar panels. It's very, very difficult to compete on cost for solar panels against a country like China with all that manufacturing prowess. No, they make very high-end solar shingles, basically. Solar tiles, kind of. And they do make the superchargers. And that is a big deal because we've seen what Electrify America and others are doing with their charging networks. They're just cobbling them together without a unified design strategy, without a single source for manufacturing. It's a mess, and it works more poorly than even I would expect, and I would expect it to work pretty bad. So that's what they're doing. And in terms of where superchargers are made, they're only made here. And the solar panels, the solar tiles, they're only made here. That's what they do, and they're doing it well and a little bit differently. And they did hit all of their targets for jobs and investment. And so did Nevada. All those targets to get their credits have been satisfied. So then we get to Shanghai. Now this is the Nummi plant. What a mess. Stamping over to body in white, over to the paint shop, general assembly. Got GA4 over here. There's a fifth one, I think. This is also general. It's a mess. But again, this was groundbreaking at the time. This was a big deal. So in Shanghai, they said, you know what? Let's do it a little differently. Let's do a straight line. Stamping, body in white, paint, general, out the door. Parts in, products out. That's it. And they've expanded to put the casting over here. So you've got your mega castings being made over here, right in line very good. This is what I would call Tesla Factory 2.0. Everything's in a straight line. How could it possibly be better? Well, the expansion for the Model Y is quite a bit bigger than this, so it should have more capacity. But the thing, I guess I should mention, the thing they did here was they started putting all of the parts at all of the loading bays. We don't need a warehouse. We just bring them in and leave them there until we need them. But how can we make this better? And the answer is, we're going to go vertical. We're going to do what I call robots in the rafters. Things go up high, things go down low. There they are, they're disappearing, and they'll be used later in a different spot. We're paying for all this vertical space. We have it, the vertical space. Why are we not using it? Now, this is all single floor. This is Model Y, 3 area. But why are we not using the rafters? Let's see if I got anything better here. Here you can see the use of vertical space. This was previously done in linear space, which slows everything down. And again, if you can save just $50 a car, and you're making 1 million cars in this factory, that's $500 million over 10 years. This is a design philosophy change, and it's different. So what are they making in Shanghai? 3 and Y, and that's it so far. So we got the rebirth in Berlin, I'm calling it. Oh, and by the way, they also have expanded to start using, with the Model Y, they started using the warehouse on wheels philosophy. We need even more storage, so this is just across, the canal is right over here. Warehouse on wheels. All of these are full of stuff, parts. And it is cheaper than building a warehouse. Easier, quicker, more versatile, I guess. I assume they'd rather have a warehouse, but they don't. So Giga Berlin, the rebirth. Now the expansion in Shanghai was probably only about 5-6 million square feet, and it only makes Model Y. Well, this whole factory is about that. It's about 6 million square feet, and it only makes the Model Y. Let's go inside. This doesn't really show the use of vertical space, but again, they went vertical with it. Everything speeds up when you go vertical because you shorten the distance. If there's one thing better than you'd like to have fewer atoms in your car, but for the production process, you'd like to have fewer inches and centimeters and meters. You'd like to have less distance to travel. So that was the big deal in Berlin. And of course, they are using the warehouse on wheels. They're doing all the things that they've learned in Shanghai and other factories that work. And now we've got workers from Shanghai going back to Fremont to show them how to speed things up a little bit. How cool is that? Ooh, scary, scary stuff. And then we get to Texas, and everything's Giga in Texas. Well, this is where the Cybertruck was supposed to be born some time ago. We've had some battery delays, but they were going to build it in 3 distinct phases. And then they raised $5 billion and $5 billion more, so they're going to build it all at once. That's a big deal because it gives them a lot of flexibility. And on yesterday's video, I talked about urgency and how the Cybertruck is not super urgent. So what ends up happening is you get to take some time and dial it in. You get to build Model Ys. And of this 9 million square feet, about 6 million of it is more or less dedicated to the Model Y, but boy, did they go vertical on this one. From what I've seen, it looks like they may have 2 paint shops stacked on top of each other. That's never been done before that I've seen. That's very unique. And it allows them to do things that others are not doing. But you've got this other big space. What are they doing there? The Cybertruck. They're going to build the Cybertruck here. And it is, kind of a big deal. You don't need 9, well, they're good, but they want to build, 1 million Model Ys. They can do it. They want to build 2-3 million trucks in a much smaller space. They can do it. Because the truck is different. Everything is different. What's new here is they're also building the batteries. They've got the battery factory in the factory. If you get outside of the factory, they've also got, over in this area, the cathode building. They're building parts for the battery. This hasn't been done. This is new. So not only do they have a process that's more efficient, a product that's more efficient, but they're more vertically integrated than anyone we have seen in the automotive industry in at least 100 years. So it's pretty exciting. That's what they do here. And then, of course, we've got the good old, the expanded warehouse on wheels. They're using an expanded warehouse on wheels in Texas. This is a Joe Techmeyer video. He does great work. These are all full of stuff. And would they rather have an Indiana Jones-style mega warehouse capable of holding everything? Yeah, probably. Because then they could go vertical. But that takes time and money to build, and this is instant. We can do it now. We can do it today. We can pay for it by the month. It's a good, quick solution because labor is not infinite, and there's more important things that they need to build. So, we got that. Ah, yes. The Supercharger Factory in Shanghai, it'll make 10,000 units per year. Stall units per year. Now, what are they doing differently? So, I did get a chance to ask the supercharger expansion rep for Tesla, where all do they make the superchargers? And he said, just in New York, and also in Shanghai. And I said, what's the difference between the two? He said, I can't tell you because I've never seen one. I imagine they use much of the same design philosophy, but he's never seen one because they don't get shipped to the US. What they're doing differently, so in this factory, it is again, there's been very few shots of it because it looks like it was an existing building, but it's just a long, skinny building with loading docks at each end. Material goes in one side, finished products come out the other. So what they're doing differently is they're designing it themselves, they're building it themselves. They've got a nice, clean, straight shot. They're building in volumes that other companies are not, which affords them economies of scale and the ability to use an assembly line, which makes it simpler, more repeatable, less margin for error, better costs. But they're also doing, I should have pulled up a picture of this, they're also doing the assemblies where it's already built together. There's like 3 or 4 of them, and they're already in concrete, and they just bring them out and lower them down, wire it up, get out, we're done. If we got the permits, we can get this built in a weekend at most. And there are time-lapse videos you can see of Tesla superchargers being installed in a weekend. Permitting is really the big hassle. And if you'd like to know why there aren't very many new superchargers going in cities, it's a shortage of space. It's a lack of access to sufficient power without upgrading. A lot of malls are already tapped out for capacity. And if you talk about a parking garage, it is so much more difficult to install them in a parking garage because you don't have overhead clearance for your heavy equipment. And they also say, we want to ring cities instead of fill cities because most people in cities are charging at home or will be in the next few years as apartments and condos wake up to the reality of electric cars. So the last one, the Megapack Factory. So this is in Lathrop. Elon said, we're leaving California. Yeah, just the headquarters left. Everything's still there. They've expanded since then. They even broke ground and opened a new factory in just a year. It's amazing. This factory makes one thing, and it makes it well, Megapacks. Megapacks are the giant cabinet-sized things that are used for grid-scale energy storage. Made on Earth by humans. They're going to remember that in the robot uprising, I promise you. So it's pretty neat. And the Megapack factories look a little bit something like this. And you know what they look like. So we will shortly get into the Q&A, because there's a lot of stuff about factories, and I left enough time to discuss all the stuff. So we'll come back to that in a second. But first, of course, I wish to thank my patrons who get early access, bonus content, all that good stuff. You keep me in business, and I appreciate it. I cannot do it without you, and I mean that. So back to this, and I'll start looking at the comments. And this is where it breaks, If you're watching it live, this is the part you get to see. Gigante, Mexico. Yes, JJ, that's a good idea. Another thing I should point out is the size of each property. You can see that Fremont is kind of maxed out. The property was larger back when it was the Nummi plant. They sold off a chunk of it at the end there that's become housing. But in in Shanghai, they only have about 100 acres. And you can see it is full. Everyone, oh my gosh, that's so much land, you'll never use it. It's full. It's full. Berlin is about 650 acres. Oh, that's huge. You'll never get through it. You can see they've cleared the trees. You can see where the next phase is going. They're going to use all that land. Texas is 2,500 plus acres. It was 2,500 before they started adding. I don't know how big it is now, but it's very big. And you can see they're going to use it all. It's going to get full. Okay. Let's look for more comments here. More valuable stuff we should probably discuss. Here, I'll just put this on the screen. Because you guys would never make me regret that, I'm sure. There we go. Make it even bigger. Why not? Yeah. It's the reason they go with the emerald footprint is to cut corners. That's right. Yeah. Good chunk of the floor space in Texas is for battery manufacturing. That's true. We're waiting 8 months on the 9 kiloton press. Yeah, where is it? Is there less silver in solar panels or tiles? I don't know. I assume they use the same chemistry, but I don't know. I don't believe there's anything else different. Tooling up. Let's see. We've got where is the semi being built? It's being built in Nevada, where they've got where they've been building the batteries and the motors, especially for the Plaid powertrain. Everyone give a thumbs up. Yes, please do that. That is a good point. John points out it is difficult to hire additional engineers in Nevada. There's a limit to the number of people willing to work in the cold. In the desert. I'm cold. It's freezing in here. Let's see. Oh, and there's a new design center going in Michigan because there's a lot of automotive talent in the Rust Belt that isn't necessarily interested in going to Texas or California or Nevada or New York. The expansion of lines 2 and 3 has involved removing floors. I would believe that. It is a living, breathing organism. I knew what the floors were when they closed it off in Texas. Since then, not certain. Not certain. Oh, please discuss the vertical processes in the factories. So Sandy Monroe explained it to me like this. The body in white rolls in, the battery comes in from the bottom, the glass comes in from the top, the doors go on, and out she goes. It's three-dimensional in every way. So, where the Mustang Ranch used to be. There are wild horses in Nevada. I have seen them. Let's see. Fremont may be out of space, but it's part of a larger industrial park in the Bay Area. Could Tesla just add on a few blocks anyway? Sure. But that land is at a premium now, and they know that Tesla's got the money. You know, when you've got money, it's hard to get discounts like that. So I think they would have a difficult time. And really what they need to do is tear that place down and build it from scratch. Even if they just do it chunk by chunk, they've got to update it to the modern design philosophy, because it is a real drag on margins and productivity generally. Where are the motors made? Nevada. That is my understanding. Maybe not all of them, but yes, motors are made in Nevada. 50 million steaks. Good deal. Yeah. If I said steaks, then it's steaks. So we're doing real good on time. Funny factory names. Hey man, I gotta do it, Digital Blade. You know I gots to do it. Let's see here. By the way, hello to everyone, to JJ and William and MD Hofsty and Digital Blade Canada. Wendelin, hello. Yes, hello to everyone. Scott, hello. Let's see what we've got. Oh. I think I know you. Did any of you guys see my Twitter post about weekly production? Do you guys agree with it? I haven't seen it, but I will check it out. Is anyone going to the event? I have not gotten any tickets. I have not been notified. I have not heard from anyone who's been notified. And I think invitations have yet to go out, because if they were out, I'm just sure we'd see them all over social media. Do the 3 and Y share the same paint shop? I believe so. I don't see why they'd be different. It'd be very easy to reconfigure the robots to run either or. Yeah. Has he described why he likes diamond-shaped buildings? They're emerald-shaped. And no, it's to cut corners. Oh. Tesla will not go above 30%. Is that the margin we're talking about? Where do they make the mega chargers for the Semi? Ooh, I don't know. I don't know. I will ask around and find an answer for you on that. My guess would be, well, it's either New York or Nevada, but I don't know which one. Because the chargers are made in New York, but everything else Semi is made in Nevada. So I will check on that. Let's see. Oh, did they plug the hole for the Tesla tunnel at Fremont? So it wasn't in Fremont, it was in Hawthorne. And I don't know if they did. I don't think so. I think they're still testing it. I think we just saw pictures last week of them trying to depressurize it to 800 millibars to use it as a poor man's Hyperloop. So I believe it's still there. I think Tesla could run into a labor shortage in Austin if it expands too much. Maybe. Austin is growing quickly, and it's a very big market, so it's less likely to run out of talent there. And you've also got a much larger surrounding area to draw from that doesn't have factories of this kind that might be a draw. MD Hofsty, oh, you guys are talking to each other. Very good. Yeah, let's talk about the poll. I asked how much, and it's pretty evenly split apart from the advertised price, which I don't think it will be, with people guessing 180 to over 250. It's just not going to be 150 to 180. There's like a $75,000 tax incentive available on it starting on the 1st. That would make it very cheap. I think they're going to do some big numbers to make a ton of money as quick as they can, make hay while the sun shines. Am I still in LA? No, I got back on Monday. What do I think is the capacity of Texas Model Y? 1 million. I believe it's 1 million. I believe it's the same size as Shanghai, and I believe it will slowly ramp to 1 million, as will Model Y in Shanghai. I would say in 2 years out, probably closer to 500,000-600,000. At the end of 2 years out, 2 to 3, 500,000-600,000, comparable to what they're doing in Shanghai. How long will it take you to drive to the Nevada plant if invited? It's about 10.5 hours. And if I'm invited, I will go. And I might go even if I'm not invited, because if I don't get in, it's becoming a meme at this point. This would be my 4th or 5th factory visit without getting in. So it'd be kind of fun, be kind of wild. I've seen out of space in Fremont ramp 3 and Y elsewhere. Make the Bay Area just SNX. Or it could be SX and prototyping. It could be a bunch of things. It's too big for just SNX, though. Maybe they could shut down the Model Y line when Texas gets up to speed and do robotaxi there. That would be nice. All right. Will they eventually build Model 3 in Texas, too? We don't know. We don't think so. But there was a time in Shanghai when they briefly build Models 3 on the Y line just to see if they could, and they could. So a Y line can build 3s, but I don't know if they wish to do that. I don't know if the Model 3 is going to survive. If they come out with a compact, do you need the Model 3 anymore? If Texas goes to 1 million Ys, then they shift California to a new model or to all Model 3? Yeah, something like that. They'll definitely shift it because, boy, there is a limit to how many Model Ys you can sell. And I don't know what it is, but Great deli at the Atlantis Hotel in Reno. Nice rooms. All right, I'll keep that in mind. Do you think the next factory will build 3 and why, or straight? So, I think the next factory will absolutely move on to a new model. Whether it's the $25,000 to $35,000 model, or the robotaxi, or something else. I think the robotaxi is I think the compact comes next, and then some kind of van, because that will also allow them to use it for the boring tunnel, which they need. What's the economics of building a 15-story factory if they're out of space? Prohibitive. The equipment vibrates. It rattles, and making it structurally sound for against that kind of lateral force at that height is prohibitive. So that's a reason you don't see factories with heavy equipment going beyond 3 to 4 floors. All right, so we are out of time. It is that time, you guys. We did it. We made it. So in them comments, what did I miss? What did I misunderstand? Leave me all your thoughts, your wisdom, your juicy, blinding brilliance. I can't wait to hear it. And whatever you do, stay tuned. Whoops, don't do that. Stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots in the future.